I like rusty spoons. It's time to react to some actually autistic memes again. Husband has selected them. I haven't seen them. Let's go. Them. High school wasn't that bad. Autistic people. Oh no, and it's got like like a war scene. Oh no. And that facial expression and the fact that he sat at a table just makes me think of sitting in the dining hall and being like a deer in headlights because it's so loud and so much, enforced socializing. Oh my gosh. That's really, really good. High school was that bad, man. And the whole thing when you're younger, they're always like, we're gonna be the best days of your life. And then you get some people like, yeah, no, it's really not gonna be the best days of your life. Don't worry, like, it's gonna get better from here. But if someone told me I had to go back tomorrow, I'd be running away. It's got the earth, me looking back on my life. Wait, it's all autism. Always has been. You first start just looking back on your life and it's like, and then you're like, wait, I've been autistic this whole time. And then you're like, wait, I've been autistic this whole time. And then all like painful memories start coming back to you of times where people picked on you and teachers did this. And that must have happened to me because I was autistic. And that's how I got into this misunderstanding. And that's why people didn't understand me in this situation. And that's why this was so traumatic. And it's like, it just goes on and on and on. And you just spend weeks and months just combing through your entire existence, pulling out all of these, a lot of them painful and traumatic memories of childhood. It's not pleasant, and I kind of wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but at the same time, I'm very glad that I now know that I'm autistic, so I suppose it was a necessary step. I was in a little bit of a dark place for a while where I was just really struggling to feel like productive in any part of my life, and I just didn't know what it meant for the future and was also really dwelling on the past. You get through. The more you can immerse yourself in the community, the better. I think for me, having this channel has been super healing and super helpful, and I'm so grateful. This one's from the Autistic Armadillo. ADHD, I can't remember where I put my phone. Husband, I'll ring it for you. Autism is on silent in case someone calls. This one is so me. I don't lose my phone as much as my non-ADHD husband does. Let me just say this, okay? Yeah, but I do lose my phone sometimes. His immediate thing is, I'll ring it for you. Yeah, it's on silent because I get spam calls all the time. I just find my phone shouting at me about anything, any sort of notification. I'm like, be quiet. Stay in your lane. Nobody asked for your opinion. Stop. I hate notifications on for anything. I can't stand it. It drives me mad. If you really relate to that, maybe watch my video about PDA. And sometimes I'll leave my phone off silent for a bit in case I do get an important phone call. Sometimes I do have to do phone calls. Would rather not, but I do. And then immediately start getting loads of spam. And I'm like, okay, onto silent we go again, and now I'll lose you forever. My computer has now decided it's got a close relationship with my phone, and it will now start ringing through the computer sometimes, and I am like, behave, both of you. What are you doing? It's like having two naughty children who are talking over a lesson in school. I'm like, I'm busy. I'm actually doing important things. And you're trying to tell me that I have a text. Do I look bothered? Do you ever have the urge though sometimes? This is unrelated, but if you lose something that isn't a phone, are you ever like, oh, I'll just ring it? You know, you've lost your favorite top. You can't ring that. All right, neurodivergent people, fork time. Which fork would you choose? I just want to say one. It looks small and cute, and it looks quite smooth on the handle. Like 2 is just, it looks kind of fancy, you know, it's all right, but I just feel like there's a bit too much going on. And then like 4 and 5, I don't really like that very rectangular end bit. 5 is okay. 5 is quite chill. 6 is okay, but it's a bit long, maybe. I don't know. Quite like, it's like the small spoon. I feel like the small spoon is very popular. Like having to use the big spoon is kind of a meme. Why do other people like the small spoon? I just feel like, I don't know, maybe I feel like I have more control over the small spoon. You can savor things if it's something nice by having very small bites. I don't know, it's cute. I just like the small spoon. Like a big spoon is kind of like scrapes the salad in your mouth, you know? It's just a bit much. So I don't know, I feel like, oh, the little fork is cute kind of thing, you know? Comment down below which fork are you? Which fork are you? Which fork represents your personality? Or alternatively, which fork would you choose to use? Which was what I actually wanted to say. It's salad fingers! Oh my gosh, does anyone remember? Have you seen salad fingers? I like rusty spoons. Oh, it's so unsettling. It's the worst thing. And when that little creature comes around and he puts them in the oven, that always, oh my god, I feel like it had such a big effect on me when I was like 12. Me practicing my social script for the week. Hello there, chaps. Oh, Oh, my neurospicy salad finger memes for autistic post-teens. I did the Alice in Borderland ones on a previous video. Oh my gosh. Hello there, chaps. Oh, it's so unsettling and awful. If you don't like creepy things, don't watch it. But if you do and you haven't seen it, iconic. Iconic. My autistic ass rolling up to the club after a decade of social isolation and video games. I like a good club. I never understood why I got so into the music and dancing, and everyone else, particularly when you go out with a group of girls, like, not to be all like, I'm not like other girls, but you know, they would always be like, let's all go to the toilet together and stand in a queue. And it can be kind of cute and funny, and like, you can gossip, and there are times where that's been really fun, but like, often I'm like, but there's music and I'm dancing and I'm so in the moment, and then I never want to leave. I'm always like, want to be like the last one standing. It's because it's so stimmy, and because I get so focused and in the activity, and I don't want to stop, and I love it. I love it if it's music that I enjoy. Oh my god, he's so creepy. I hate him. My autistic ass preparing for another awkward date in the endless pursuit of love. Oh, I was quite lucky. I think it must be harder for autistic men because men are kind of pushed more to have like more of a dominant role and kind of go for it more, whereas women can kind of be more passive and still find themselves in relationships. I'm always quite, you know, if I find someone I like, I relate to the song Mastermind by Taylor Swift. I'm like, I don't know, I feel like I wouldn't necessarily mind making the first move kind of thing. Autism, just sleep 20 more minutes. Autism, how about 30 minutes? Autism, just skip work. Autism, just quit your job. Oh no, I'm self-employed, so I can't really quit. I'm stuck. Help. I find it so hard to get out of bed in the morning. If you feel like you very much relate to this, again, you may relate to the PDA profile of autism. The PDA Society have an excellent website. They're based in the UK, but it's, you know, information that's relevant to everyone. Yeah, I mean, I really struggle with getting out of bed. I think a lot of autistic people do because it's a transition and we struggle with transitions. But for me, it's also to do with demand avoidance and feeling the weight of the day pressing down on top of me, for sure. And it just, yeah, it doesn't matter what you've got to do sometimes. You're still like, I'm not going to move. And your brain's like, you should probably move. And you're like, what if I don't move? What if I just stay here? What if? What's the worst that can happen? My solution is be self-employed if you can. You know, it's changed my life for the better in a lot of ways. How small talk feels to a neurodivergent person. I love how the fact that you just seeing his muscles makes it look like the plank is more intense. Like, I feel like you feel it more in your muscles because you can see his muscles. I don't know, does that make any sense? It does feel like a lot of strain and a lot of effort. And a lot of energy is expended. Would I rather have small talk or plank? That's the question. Would you rather plank for 1 minute or make small talk with somebody? I would rather plank for 1 minute. If it grows to 2 minutes, I'd probably collapse, but I'd probably still rather plank. Oh, this is a good one. Autistic people need structure, but you forgot the most important part. Autistic people need to be able to choose their structure, not have it forced upon them. Smiley face. Yeah, sometimes when people, I don't know if it's just again because of being PDA. If you didn't know, PDA is kind of like anxiety-driven need to remain in control. It's a profile of autism. We typically are quite independent. We don't like being told what to do. We don't like imposed routines. So a lot of like traditional autism kind of coping strategies and accommodations don't really work for us. So I don't know if it's just because of that. I feel a little bit like I get alarm bells ringing with the fact that there's like, you know, sometimes just such blanket accommodations like, oh, autistic people don't like this, so we'll give you this, because it's a spectrum and people are so different, and I feel like you should probably talk to the individual about what they need rather than just trying to tell somebody, oh, I did this because people like you usually don't really like this too much, hope it helps, and just fling it at you. Maybe that's something that doesn't really bother them that much, and maybe there's actually something over here that they needed more, but because you didn't communicate and didn't make them feel safe enough to communicate with that with you, now they're stuck with some useless accommodation. Autism leaving my body after someone says you don't look autistic. I don't know, what do people expect from an autistic person? Like, literally the personality of a blank sheet of paper, basically. What are you expecting? I did see someone leave a comment which was quite interesting, that they actually used to confuse when they were younger autism with Down syndrome, and maybe that has something to do with the whole you don't look autistic sort of thing. But yeah, I think it just means you don't match the stereotype that I have in my head, and I don't believe you. You make autism your whole personality. It's literally my brain. It literally is my whole personality. personality. It's not something that is separate from me. It's not a condition that I acquired. It's not something I was traumatized into. It is a neurodevelopmental condition, which means your brain developed differently to other people. You have a unique perspective. A lot of people who do speak about autism a lot and share a lot about autism are people who were late to be diagnosed, whether officially diagnosed or self-diagnosed, and therefore we feel quite passionate. You know, you could even say a bit evangelist about it, like, yes, let's get the word out there. Let me make these videos. Let me put it out on the internet. Let me help other people discover themselves, because it is an incredible feeling and has helped my mental health more than anything I've ever done in my life. I've had CBT, you know, I've read every self-help book under the sun. Nothing has helped me like knowing I'm autistic has helped me. And then also you realize how little everybody else knows and understands about autism, which is why you've spent most of your life undiagnosed. Of course you want to help get that information out there and kind of change the narratives about it. The profile of autism that I have, pathological demand avoidance, that nobody has ever heard of, even experts, the idea of it was proposed in 1980. Come on, I feel like we should really be further down this autism path, you know, as a species. Okay, so this is a retweet. Why is everyone suddenly being diagnosed with autism? Because in the past, no one knew about autism, and we were literally thought to be fairy children who had snuck into human homes and taken the place of ordinary children. Do any other autistic women out there feel like you could have been burnt as a witch in the past? Like, you really would not have fit very well into society. I feel so sorry for all my poor autistic ancestors, particularly female, who had to live in previous generations where things were not quite so nice for anybody, but particularly for women, and for women who stood out and were different. That is terrifying. And then the person said the first person diagnosed with autism is still alive. That is so crazy. My whole life it feels like something that we've always known about and has always been there, but no, this is all still very new. There's hope that by the end of my lifetime, what is it gonna look like? No wonder I want to make it my whole personality, man. I feel like there's a lot of things that need to change and a lot of stigma. We gotta dismantle it. And I hate this whole thing of like,
why is everyone being diagnosed with ADHD? Why is everyone being diagnosed with autism?
And there was a whole thing that BBC did recently to try and expose that people are being diagnosed too much with ADHD by private clinics. I think the data was something like we went to 3 private clinics and they all diagnosed this person with ADHD, but then we went to one NHS person and they said they didn't have ADHD. I don't know whether this person does or doesn't have ADHD. I don't know, but the NHS person concluded that they were just traumatized because someone had died in their early childhood or something like that. But like, you could use that same data to draw a conclusion that the NHS is letting so many people slip through the cracks, and instead they used it to try and invalidate anybody who goes out to try and get a private diagnosis because they don't want to wait for years and years, let years and years of their life go by where they don't have any accommodations while they wait for the NHS to get around to them. And like, I mean, to even get to a point where you've been referred on the NHS is a battle. It's just a joke. If something has been underdiagnosed for years and then more information starts circulating about it because people are finally able to communicate with each other on the internet, we can communicate with people across the world and be like, oh, we have a lot of weird similarities. I wonder if there could be a reason for this. Of course there is then suddenly going to be a rush of people being diagnosed. You left us, you ignored us. It's about time, and there are still probably so many more people who need a diagnosis or would benefit from a diagnosis. You don't have to get an official diagnosis, but it may be helpful to you. Quite happy with being known as a fairy child though. Like, I'll take it. People did used to tell me like, you're like a fairy, but in like a kind of disgusted way. And I think it was because my movement is weird because I have a dyspraxia diagnosis as well, but it's kind of like floaty sometimes, I suppose, because sometimes it's a bit stimmy maybe, but also awkward. And people were like, found this cool rock on a hike today, so I brought it home. I saw lots of comments on my special interests and not what you think video about collecting rocks and collecting gemstones and all that kind of stuff. Oh my gosh, I loved it. I loved it so much as a child, and going to the beach now with my son. I've come down to have a look at the pebbles. There's so many with like little holes in them. They're so cool. We do have some rather large rocks that have come home as well. Not quite that big. It's kind of cool. Oh, there's a little cute red squirrel. Neurosqueak is the name. Oh, boy, 4-year-old. Autistic! I know not all boys get diagnosed. Let me just say that. It's not all boys, not all men hogging the autism diagnoses. Girl 4 years old, shy. Yeah, very, very shy. Imagine like a girl like not wanting to make eye contact and just, you know, kind of looking at the floor. Like with men, it's kind of, you're supposed to be assertive in that sort of way, maybe even as a young boy, but for a girl, it's like, oh, look, she won't even look at me. Oh, it's kind of almost like seen as like dainty and pretty. Boy 16, autistic. Girl 16, BPD, borderline personality disorder, a very common misdiagnosis for autism. I know there are some people who feel like both diagnoses fit them, and that's valid. And if you find the treatment for BPD useful, then that's cool. I do not identify with borderline personality. Sometimes I look back and I think, I really should have pushed at some of the hardest points in my life to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Maybe they would have been able to tell me that I was autistic. I don't feel safe and secure that they would have correctly diagnosed me by any means at all. I think there's a chance they could have just heard about meltdowns, or they could have just isolated certain parts of my life and certain things that I said and come away with a borderline personality disorder diagnosis or emotionally unstable personality disorder diagnosis. That is not something I want on my record, so I'm very glad. Said it before, I'll say it again. If you're gonna stigmatize us for the right thing, please. Thank you. Male 20, autistic, female 20, bipolar. Yeah, again, another common misdiagnosis, and another one that I would feel like, I think just hearing about meltdowns in autistic women and just immediately assuming, ooh, they have emotional issues. Sometimes I kind of see comments like,
What's the point of getting an autism diagnosis? It doesn't even help. You can't even take any medication. There's not even any treatment.
basically people almost trying to insinuate you might as well be misdiagnosed with bipolar or BPD because then at least you'll get some treatment. Like, for the wrong thing, is that useful? Obviously, if you actually do have those things, it's great if you can get the treatment and help. But bipolar is typically treated and managed with medication. Autistic people can have strange reactions to medication, paradoxical reactions, dangerous reactions, overdose-like reactions to what would be a normal dose for other people. Nobody should be medicated for the wrong thing. That is terrifying to me. So I'm just hoping that that is going to change. If somebody hears about a boy maybe struggling with his anger or something like that, there is a chance, if they know that they also struggle with social stuff and maybe their interests are not football, you know, they're not interested in the typical thing boys are interested in, they may jump to autism in a way that they wouldn't with females, and I really hope that changes. And I know there are so many people who are male who also slip through the cracks for various reasons for not being stereotypical as well, so it's not just all like all females are ignored and all men are perfectly diagnosed. The whole thing is a bit of a hot mess. Male 25, autistic, female 25, got an ASD diagnosis, but probably misdiagnosed because it's just a trend and she wants attention. Oh, just a trend. It's so trendy and cool. Like, the people who say this, do you realize you go out into the world and tell someone you're autistic, like, nobody's gonna go, oh my god, you're so cool, why? Just because there are communities around it on social media, you know, that social media bubble is not reflecting the level of acceptance out there in the real world where everybody has to exist. Still pretty sure it's, I don't know, I'm not at school right now. Would it be cool, anyone who's at school right now, to walk into a classroom and be like, I'm autistic, and get your little fidget out and wave it in the air and be like, yeah? I don't think so. When you try to end a conversation with a neurotypical but don't want to be rude and it just keeps going, no, the biggest thing is, so my dad's family are quite into social gatherings and having dues for things. The worst thing about these events, they're all my family. I obviously know basically everyone there and it's a massive family, and I have to say goodbye at the end to everyone in turn, and they're all drunk and they all can't stop talking and it just goes on and on. You have to factor it in mentally. I need to basically start leaving 2 hours before I actually want to leave because I'm gonna get into more conversations, and they can get, you know, when people are at a certain point in their drunkenness, they can get pretty deep pretty quickly, you know? I feel like I'm never the one to end a conversation because I don't really know when is appropriate. So if someone is still talking, I'll never kind of excuse myself and leave. Even if I need the toilet or something like that, I will just carry on speaking to them. A lot of my experience of autism is wanting to be invited to everything and wanting to attend nothing. Yeah, just invite us anyway, because we've often, you know, maybe have some abandonment history, trauma in the past, feeling left out of things. It's nice to be invited, and, you know, as an autistic person, if you don't want to go, just Just say no. Say you don't want to go. Thank you so much for inviting me. You could even say, love to be invited next time. And maybe try and get some invitations to things you might actually want to go to. But I know sometimes it's just, staying at home is just blissful, you know? How are you ever going to beat that? And I think even a lot of non-autistic people feel that, you know? Home is where the unmasked self is. And that's kind of true for everybody to some extent, but obviously more so for neurodivergent people. Oh, this looks cute. Am I an alien? Am I a robot? I'm definitely not human. I am diagnosing you with autism. Oh, yeah, it's a big thing, isn't it? Like feeling like you're on another planet and like you just don't fit. I often felt like how would a human do these things? You know, when you're masking, you're like, how to be more human? How can I make sure I'm moving like a human? Not really including myself in what I defined a human as, which is incorrect. Thank you so much for watching. If you love memes, you love some actually autistic memes, then click the playlist on screen. There are lots of good ones. You might have missed some because I made quite a few of these videos now. Subscribe if you want to subscribe. Don't subscribe if you don't want to subscribe. Have a lovely day. Hope you don't have to make any small talk. Sorry if you do.